Hello, welcome to Spooky AF. This is Suze, and I'm joined by my co-host Rob.
Hey, how are you?
And today we'll be talking about La Llorona, which I would like to preface by saying I am a white lady from Texas, so I may not be pronouncing that correctly. So please do not burn me or roast me or whatever people do in comments.
That's fair. That's more than fair.
So the way the podcast is going to go is that every week we'll be discussing a new legend or a horror film or something generally spooky that has caught our interest. And we're just going to be talking about it. And we wanted to let you guys into our conversations that we would pretty much be having anyway. So does that sound about right, Rob?
Yeah, we pretty much talk about this all the time anyway. So naturally, as two people in 2023, we have a voice about these things and thought, we may as well make a podcast about it as well to share our thoughts and opinions with everyone else on this.
Absolutely. I mean, and we've been talking about this stuff for years now, so I think this is a long time coming. So I guess I'll get going. As the good former academic that I am, I'll start out with my two sources. Three sources. So my sources are an article by Gina DeMuro on All That Is Interesting, a very good Wikipedia article, and my own childhood in the Southwest of the United States. So that's where I'm coming from with these facts for you. So today we're going to be talking about La Llorona. Now, Rob, do you know anything about this?
No, pretty much nothing. Like, I've kind of seen a few bits and pieces online, yourself, like when you're on Reddit and things like that. But I don't actually know anything about the history of La Llorona or anything at all to do with it. I just kind of know that, I suppose, the Spark Notes version, I guess, but more just, I've seen it online. I'd know the name, but wouldn't necessarily know anything about it.
Cool. Well, it's something that haunted my childhood. So I heard it not from my mom, but I heard it from kids at school, and it terrified me. And we'll get into it. So La Llorona, I'm going to set the scene for you. Picture this. You're somewhere in Mexico. You're near a body of running water, and you think, wow, what an idyllic place that I'm in right now. It's evening, wonderful. You see a white woman or a woman in white in the distance. She is walking slowly, almost gliding, and you hear very loud wailing, and she's crying so loudly. But weirdly, the closer she gets to you, the quieter the noise becomes until she disappears. And then suddenly you turn around and she's there. She's just there in front of you. And that is La Llorona.
Deeply uncomfortable with that.
And now that is, something terrible is going to happen to you.
So firstly, when you said picture Mexico, first thing that came into my head was obviously the Breaking Bad filters that they have for any time they go south of the border, where everything is just magically yellow. I don't know why they do that, but you hear her from far away and she sounds quite close to you.
Yes.
And then so you see her, and then the closer she gets to you, the quieter she gets.
That's what I have heard growing up, and what I saw in the All That Is Interesting article was that there's this weird kind of opposite noise thing going on. So when you think you're safer because she sounds further away, she's actually closer to you.
That's actually terrifying.
Right? So I'll go into a bit of the history of La Llorona and then some spooky encounters with her. So it is Spanish in Spanish it means weeping woman or the wailer. She is present throughout Mexico, the American Southwest, and Central America. And she exists in kind of different variations in those three places.
She gets around though.
That will come into play.
She is a woman about town.
She is a woman about town. The basic story is that La Llorona haunts bodies of water, wailing for the lost children that she drowned after being abandoned by her lover. So she had 3 kids, and she was so distraught by being left by their father that she drowned them in a river, and that part of the one part of the legend is that she then wasn't allowed into heaven, so she without her children, so she's doomed to wander the earth looking for them next to bodies of water.
That's a rational response.
Yeah.
I can't say it would be my rational response, but then again, I've never been in that scenario, so I can't say for certain.
You've never been left by your lover with 3 children?
No, I haven't. I'm clearly missing out on some part of my life. I should probably maybe look into that more. Although I don't actually think I want to experience that.
As both of us are in child-free relationships, I don't think this is a situation that's going to come up for us.
Yeah, I don't think I have any fear about this one, thankfully. Love the introduction of not being led into heaven either, just to put in that kind of religious side of things. I guess it wouldn't be a story about South and Central America without a tasty bit of Catholic fare.
Well, that's what's really interesting, is that she's actually connected to quite a few mythologies from different places. So there is this kind of Catholic overtone to it, but there's also she's been connected to an Aztec goddess of motherhood.
Oh, that's so cool.
Right? And there are even some similarities scholars have drawn between her legend and that of Lilith and Eve, and that dynamic, and also in Greek mythology of Juno, or Roman mythology, Juno, who would kill Zeus's children from other ladies.
You've just triggered so many Greek mythology bros. That I heard you say Greek mythology and then the word Juno afterward.
I know. I'm so sorry. I studied Victorian literature. You can't blame me. But yeah, so they've connected her to all these different traditions of infanticide, but also this really weird maternal spirit at the same time. So I'm going to go back in time a little bit and tell you where she first kind of shows up. So she even appears in something called the Florentine Codex. She is an omen. There's an oblique reference to her. It's from 1519 about a woman weeping and shouting, "Oh, my children, we are about to go forever." However, and so she's been around since that period. However, the legend really gained traction during the colonial period. And she's often associated with the dynamic between Spanish conquistadors and indigenous women. The original legend most likely involving an indigenous woman who was either consentingly or forcibly bore the illegitimate children of a Spanish conqueror and then kills her children in despair. So there are some real intersectional vibes going on here of class, gender, race, and sadness.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there.
Sorry?
There's a lot to unpack with that.
There's so much. Yeah, it was really interesting looking into it because another aspect of the legend that they think contributed to it is the story of La Malinche, which I'm probably mispronouncing, who was a Nahua woman who served as Cortez's interpreter, and she was a real woman. And she bore his son, but Cortez then, after all they had been through, he then left her for a Spanish woman. And part of that rumor was that, but then her people wouldn't take her back because she had helped the Spanish. And so she was and she had killed her son in despair.
Was this the woman? You've just transported me back to like secondary school history, learning about the conquistadors. Was this the woman she was like 16 or 17 when Cortez was there, so she's basically like a child, and then stayed with him for quite a while?
Yeah, she was his interpreter for years.
Yeah, she legitimately thought that they were in like a relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With good reason.
They were. But then he decided to fuck off back to Europe.
Yeah, he decided to go marry a Spanish woman.
Yeah, you've unlocked a memory there that has long been dormant. Yeah, that was a deep, deep memory.
Well, the thing is, so she was a real woman and she did bear a son from Cortez. However, there is no evidence to suggest that she was that she killed that son or that she was banished by her people. That was kind of added as a flourish later. But the mainstream version of La Llorona shows up for the first time in literature in the 19th century in a sonnet by a Mexican poet named Manuel Carpio, which interestingly doesn't mention infanticide. So she doesn't kill her children in this. It just says that La Llorona was murdered by her husband. So completely different kind of...
That's a very different vibe.
Yeah, it's a lot less creepy because you feel bad for her.
Yeah, I just feel bad for her now.
Right. Instead of feeling bad for her and being terrified.
Yeah, I felt conflicted more about anything else because it's like, yeah, your husband left you. I do feel bad for you, but also you killed your kids. Like, it's not really a rational response to your husband leaving you.
Right. Well, I mean, this is me putting on my equality, diversity, and inclusion hat, but like, I can kind of, it can be argued that it was a rational response in terms of her, not rational, but I can get it. I get it. I don't know.
Sue's 2023, kill the kids.
Don't worry, listeners, I have no children.
Taking home the gold in the mental gymnastics tournament.
No. So generally she is a beautiful woman whose husband abandons her, and she kills her children in despair and is cursed to wander near bodies of running water to look for them forever. Like I said, there are many regional variations. Like in Guatemala, she has particular associations and things, and in Mexico. But I'm from Texas, so I kind of know that one best. It was told to me to basically to stop you from going near water, which in Texas isn't super difficult because it's not like there's a lot of water around. But
that's fair though. Like I can see the logic behind it, but also I see your rationale of there's no fucking water here. Like,
it's just dry.
This is clearly not a fear that should be put in us.
No, but it kind of expanded. So it would be like, don't go near pools because she could be near a pool.
Right. Okay.
And so like, don't drown in a pool. And then because there was the whole thing that like La Llorona will take you. I remember hearing that bit. And so I remember being like, there was a creek by my house, and I remember being kind of creeped out by the creek for a while because of that.
So if you're selfish enough to drown yourself,
yes,
she's coming to take you, basically.
She's coming. Yeah, she's coming for you. And then my other friends at school, their parents would use it like, if you don't behave, La Llorona is going to come get you. There was no association with water. It just became a threat.
That's a dramatically different fear.
Yes.
That's a like boogeyman.
Yes.
La Llorona's under your bed sort of shit.
Yes. So that's kind of the context I grew up with it in. Like I said, she glides among bodies of water, disappearing and reappearing. Just seeing her is a bad omen. However, if she appears just before you, you will never be seen again. So there was a story in this one of the articles that was talking about a family who looked out their window and they saw a woman disappearing and reappearing by the creek, and then experiencing like horrific bad luck for the next several years.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
But that kind of is different though.
It's different, yeah.
She's not necessarily like taking anyone. It's more because they saw her, it brought bad luck on them.
Yeah, because she kind of functions as both an omen of bad luck and also as this boogeyman figure.
Cool. So was it a case of like she didn't finish the ritual of getting close to them? So it was like reversing them. They thought they were safe. And then all of a sudden she's like, well, actually, you've got bad luck now.
She's like, actually, fuck you. You're going to default on your mortgage.
Yeah. Holds a mirror up in front of them with a hammer. You just fucking broke this.
See this black cat I conjured? Yeah, crossed in front of you, bitch.
Yeah, I am just bad luck and like just the embodiment of bad luck.
Yes.
Yeah. So she didn't finish her ritual of being like creeping up behind them. So she's like, next best thing.
Yeah.
Bad luck.
And there's some discussion about her like taking children in particular because she wants to like replace the children that she lost. So there's like an extra creepy vibe.
To also just play devil's advocate, I'm sure it's much easier for her to take kids than fully grown adults. Like, I don't think there's anything controversial about that statement.
About taking children.
Well, they're just easier to manage physically, you know.
That's right. She's a slight lady. She needs to do this efficiently. Yeah. She needs small bodies. Yeah.
She knows what she's doing. Like, this is some like professional level child abduction she has going on here.
And that's what the point of this podcast was, to really get the professionalism of La Llorona across to the listeners.
She clearly has a service that not many people want, but she offers regardless.
That not many people want.
But maybe some people do.
But they don't admit it.
We don't associate with those people, though.
No, we don't associate with those people. Can you imagine just like being next to a river and thinking, I could just wonder if someone would take my child here next to this river, some disembodied spirit.
Yeah, I can completely see that.
Yeah.
On the other hand, though, I could also see it as an excuse for shitty parenting. That they didn't tell their kids to go to the water enough.
So the parents are being punished.
No. It's more like they didn't put the fear of open bodies of water into their kids. Their kids went fucked around in the water and died. So then the parents were like, oh, well, must have been La Llorona.
Oh, right.
And then everyone in the village or society is just like, yeah, fuck, that's shitty luck, isn't it? And the parents are like, yeah, God, that La Llorona one. Don't ask me about my parenting. Definitely wasn't me at all, just being a shitty parent. It's that spooky lady.
Oh, God.
She's the one who did it.
I hope that someone was brought to court and that was their answer.
Sitting in court, yeah. Judge is sitting there, listening to everything, and the lawyer's like, "What do you have to say for yourself?" It's a ghost.
It's a ghost.
I don't know what else to tell you. You know, she came, she took the kids. Judge is like, "Why are you smiling?" Just nerves.
Nerves? I'm just a nervous laugher.
I didn't say I was a bad parent. Who said I was a bad parent?
Now I'm just thinking of a nervous laugher in a La Llorona situation. Like, she's wailing and you're laughing because you're nervous. And so you just hear, and...
La Llorona won't know what to do with that, though. She'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
So she just starts wailing louder, and then you start laughing louder, and suddenly you're trying to outshout La Llorona.
Yeah, and then she's afraid of you then, because then she's like, I've not come across this. Usually I'm the one putting fear in them.
Right.
So then La Llorona's checking under her bed for the laugher.
For the nervous laugher.
Yeah, she's not a fan of the Joker, clearly.
So really, we've just found the way to defeat La Llorona is just to be a nervous laugher.
Yeah, throw the kids at her and then laugh.
It's the Harry Potter ridiculous boggart scenario.
100%.
Yeah.
That's it exactly. You
just put her in tap shoes and suddenly she's funny.
Yeah, you just look her right in the eyes and just laugh at her. I hear what you're saying, but this is funny as shit.
This is so funny.
Yeah. Maybe if you were a better parent, you wouldn't have had this issue.
Oh, shit. Yeah. So you're going to shame her while you're laughing at her.
Yeah. You're going to Game of Thrones style, get out a bell and get everyone chanting shame.
Shame.
As you point and laugh at her. Communal shaming of La Llorona.
Oh, God. Yeah, so that's kind of the myth. She's shown up a lot in recent kind of ghost huntery shows. Like, I know that our boys... I call them our boys because I love them so much on YouTube.
Spooky Boys.
Spooky Boys.
From BuzzFeed.
Yeah, for Shane and Ryan.
Yeah.
They did a whole episode on her where they went down to, I believe they went down somewhere in Texas.
That's cool.
But that sounds right.
Yeah, that does sound familiar.
And they did a whole episode on La Llorona. And yeah, they didn't see her, but the child in me definitely identifies with, like, being worried she'll show up.
That's more than fair. I suppose as well, it's one of those things that even though you rationally know that it doesn't make any sense to be afraid of this, you still have that, like, inner child in you being like, but what if?
Yeah, exactly.
There's a reason why I wasn't told to go to the water.
If I'm alone at night near the water, it's a passing thought.
Naturally.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, I think it's fair.
And then you hear the wailing.
Oh, God. And then I start to wail and suddenly I'm out crying La Llorona.
You've become La Llorona.
Well, it's like, so one time my was held at gunpoint in a 7-Eleven style convenience store where that she worked at.
You're gonna have to drop some context here.
Yes, I'm getting there. And the gunman was like, open the safe. And my so hysterical that she couldn't remember the combination, but the combination was her birthday. But she was just like, oh, and she was so hysterical, she scared the robber and he left. So really, this could be the La Llorona method.
There's a lot to unpack in that.
And it runs in my family.
I actually don't know what to say. Rarely am I speechless. But a 7-Eleven hold-up story has done it.
In the middle of this ghost story.
Yeah. So the robber comes in, and I know this has nothing to do with the podcast now, but the robber comes in,
Yep.
has a gun pointed at
Yep.
and he's basically trying to get money.
Yeah.
And she's just like completely panicking. Can't remember. So she obviously knew beforehand that the passcode was her birthday.
Yep.
And probably like made that mental note of like, oh, funny, that's my birthday.
Yeah.
Fast forward to this dude with a gun in front of her. She just has a total brain fart.
Yep.
And then the guy is just like so
overwhelmed by her hysteria.
So what, did he like take money out of his wallet and give it to her?
To her. Yeah, she got paid.
Yeah, he's basically like, dude, you have some shit going on.
Well, it's just amazing he didn't just shoot her.
The would have been the more Texan response than not doing it. But that's bizarre. I mean, I can completely understand why, your have that reaction.
Yeah.
Like, that's a rational reaction. This dude's seen that probably before. He's probably like, oh, fuck's sake, not another one. Just shakes his head, walks out. He's like, it's not even worth, like, trying to do anything here.
So, yeah, like, bringing it back, that could be my method for defeating La Llorona, is just being more upset than she is.
Just out La Llorona her.
She doesn't know how often I cry during the week and how loud I can be.
Maybe that's why you've never seen her.
That's because she's like, am I La Llorona?
Yeah. You look down, all of a sudden you're in a white dress.
Oh my god.
She's like seen you before at like Bodies of Water, and she's like, no, actually I'm good. I'm not engaging with that.
She's like, you know what? She's in therapy.
She's got her own shit, clearly. She doesn't need me putting my baggage on her as well. I'm gonna give her a pass.
Yes. Yeah, so that's La Llorona. She's shown up most recently in the 2019 Warner Brothers film La Llorona, which I haven't seen yet, but could be a fun podcast to watch for us.
I'd watch that.
It's got a 96% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes. So
serious?
Yeah.
So it's actually like a legitimately good film then.
Yeah, it's supposed to be pretty scary.
I'd watch that.
Yeah.
I'd definitely watch that.
We can make our spouses watch it too and make them miserable.
I can assure you my wife is not going to watch that.
Yeah, my husband wouldn't watch it either.
No.
They would just go in the kitchen, leave us to it.
That's exactly what would happen.
They'll go talk about bread.
Yeah. Yeah, Dutch ovens and bread and all that sort of stuff. Sourdough starters and...
Yep.
Yeah, no, I definitely watched that. It's interesting to see like the different stories throughout South and Central America and how it's obviously culturally spreading into North America as well, granted in southern states. But I'd be curious, so this story just come around since kind of European invaders came to South and Central America, or was this kind of around a little bit beforehand, do you know?
I don't know for sure. So like I said, there's some connections to her with like an Aztec goddess and some other kind of Native American or Middle American, I'm not sure the correct term, indigenous peoples there, but it seems like it really picked up steam in the colonial period.
Fair. Yeah, okay.
And it could be read, and I think it's a decent reading to think of it as a metaphor for Spanish invasion.
Oh, yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. I'd be curious to see, if there was any sort of stories there beforehand, seeing them ramp up, obviously, with the introduction of the Spanish and Portuguese coming over and getting up to all the shenanigans that they did.
All the genocide.
All the genocide. All the genocide. No, that's pretty interesting. And yeah, it's curious to see how like it's clearly made enough of a kind of impact culturally that it's still known today.
Oh yeah.
And clearly still being taught to kids.
Oh yeah.
Like I guess it makes sense. It's one of those things that you can totally understand why kids would ultimately end up having like fears of water and things like that, and because this fear has been put into them by their parents, or let's be honest, probably grandparents, telling them stories, because they don't have to deal with that mess. It's the parents that have to deal with the crying child after.
True.
Yeah. No parent who works a 9 to 5 is coming home and telling their kids these stories and then staying up at night with their child crying. It's generally a grandparent.
Oh yeah.
Or relative who, again, doesn't have to deal with that mess. They're basically like, here's some childhood trauma, and go back to your parents. Let them deal with it. No, that's super, super interesting. I'd be curious to see if there's any sort of like similar stories, kind of like globally, if the La Llorona story is just specific to that region, or if there's like, you did mention that there was based off the Roman mythology, so I'd be curious to see like how similar the kind of like European stories could be, or if there's other areas as well, because that's kind of the interesting thing about colonialism is that I'm sure that those sort of stories would be picked up and then spread through the different kind of colonies and things like that, and would...
Well, I'm even thinking it probably pre-exists colonialism in a lot of places, in that it's just a really common human trope in terms of having this wild woman or this aberrant woman, whether that's because she killed her children or whether that's because she's a witch, or having her as this kind of boogeyman for society. Like, I'm just thinking of like Baba Yaga and...
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Hysterical woman.
Jesus.
Yeah. Look, you talked about it in the Victorian period. They were all about hysterical women then, like...
They were, and then they gave them orgasms and they felt
true,
better.
Actually, yeah. So, maybe that's what's wrong with La Llorona. It's been years.
It's been years. She is on the longest dry spell.
She's just done. Like, she's just finished now. She's just given up. Now that's really interesting, but like, yeah, I'd be curious to see how it's kind of spread, and similar stories, how they've kind of like merged together and made it into what it is now.
Yeah. The researcher in me really wants to like dig in further and see what connections we can make, but unfortunately we work 9 to 5s.
That is true. But it's what you said though about the kind of like the Baba Yaga, and I'm just thinking in Ireland, I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I can say with probably almost near certainty that there's stories as well of, witches and things like that. It's serving as metaphors for... Yeah,
for the frightening femininity and...
Yeah. And I guess just trying to understand the way the world works and kind of put understanding on things, rather than trying to explain that, or trying to understand that a river could just pull your kids away or you. It's, putting the kind of story side to it, saying, it's easier for you to explain to a child, if you go there, this crazy woman is going to come and take you, rather than, sitting your child down and trying to explain to them how physics works.
This is what an undertow is.
Yeah, have you heard of currents, Jimmy? Because you're going to fucking learn about them if you don't sit down and... and I guess probably just that kind of like healthy fear of the water that a lot of people have. Like, I personally don't have that at all. I'm not afraid of the water at all, and I probably should have a fear of the water. It probably will eventually come back to bite me if I'm not careful. But that kind of like fear of the unknown that humans evolutionarily have had to like develop.
Do you know what's weird about my fear, though, is it's not of the water in general. I don't have a fear of the water. What I do have a fear of is a very particular setting of water, like what water would look like in Texas in terms of like a river at night in the country in Texas freaks me out. I mean, also serial killers.
Where La Llorona appears, though.
Yeah, like, exactly. Like
river at night.
that's whereas like if I'm standing next to the River Shannon, I'm not freaked out.
That's true. Well, we don't know if La Llorona has gone international though.
True.
Like she's got around South and Central America, but she's probably not across the Atlantic yet.
Not yet.
Yet. Give her time.
Give her more time.
Yeah. Well, look, it takes a while. Just plenty of kids to take.
She can just work her way over to the East Coast of America and then...
Well, just sitting in New York.
Yeah.
Being like, any day now, there'll be a boat going to Ireland.
Yeah.
I'll get to Connacht eventually. Yeah, no, that's interesting. The fear of that like specific setting. I guess it makes sense though, because you'd associate that with childhood as well.
Yeah.
That's what you were afraid of then. Yeah, I can definitely understand. And it's not a bad thing to have a fear in the water.
No.
Definitely not. Also, I guess for you in Texas as well, I'm assuming flash floods are a thing that you have to deal with.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you see, we don't have that here either. So
No, you don't.
no, so La Llorona is just not a problem for us. Not something that we have to think about.
I think that about covers it. Other than us needing to now add it to our to watch list.
Oh yeah, no, I'll totally watch that.
Yeah.
I'll definitely watch that. Anything with that sort of score has to be good.
All right. See you guys later.
Take it easy, guys.